For people who are interested in visual communication, take the time to really learn your craft and don't just copy things.
How's it going, brains? Today I'm with KRISTIN Ellison. She has devoted herself to helping craft world-class training courses for creative business professionals through online platforms such as LinkedIn Learning. KRISTIN is also a painter. We'll be asking about that later. But for now, let's talk about the topic. Today, brains, we're going to talk about the visual communication process and its benefits. My first question for you, KRISTIN, is how can visual communications or visual aids affect the learning experience of its viewers?
I'm a visual learner myself. It just connects with my mind so quickly. And the more that we learn the differences of the way that people learn material, whether they're more tuned into their ears or their eyes or through words, you need to really create content that everybody is going to get equally.
I 100% agree. It's one of those things where if you want to keep the attention of the audience, I think you have to have some kind of visual aid or some kind of sensory element incorporated into your content.
Yeah, and I think that that's a big reason that infographics have really taken off.
That said, do you feel visual aids or visual communications benefit more the facilitator business side or the consumer viewer side?
It's probably mutually beneficial because as you work through creating the visual to go with the idea, then you're you're sort of gaining new insight into it, but then you're also have the ability to reach more people.
Definitely. There's even studies to show that over 65% of the human population are visual learners, and the use of visual elements increase the comprehension by 400%, which is crazy to think about. With that said, does that change your creative process for content creation? For instance, to incorporate more visual elements to appeal to a broader audience?
Absolutely, it changes. You have to think about so many more elements that are going into that final product. So if you're just putting words on a paper, that's one set of skills and one set of elements. But when you're creating something more visually communicative, very often it requires a different human with the proper skills to do that. And having professionals who are trained at understanding how to communicate effectively in a visual way is immensely important. There's an understanding or a belief, I think, with programs like Canva that anybody can be a designer. And the reality is that anybody can slap together a logo or a infographic or something like that. But there is so much nuance to creating truly effective work. And that's something that professionally trained designers over the years acquire those skills. It's not, you're not born with them. There's a science to that communication, to setting up a hierarchy of how you're leading the person's eye around the page, what colors are communicating, also taking into account not only are you a visual learner or not, but are you colorblind? And
Yes.
are you thinking about the accessibility of the communications that you're creating? Because you can make them great for everybody, or you can make them unusable for a certain population.
Definitely. I'm very avid to use the other visual elements or sensory elements within my copy. For example, not just thinking about just the visual, but the sonic, using sound, taste, touch, and implementing the copy to kind of match and create this whole sensory experience within my communications, because I feel it appeals to a larger audience.
Mhm.
Way you could kind of play with the brain and enhance that visual element using those things. So if the person is colorblind, or even hearing impaired, they can still feel the emotion, the textures,
Exactly.
and kind of get of a sense of that visual element. Now, would you say that your creative process for developing the communication pieces change based on the type of content you want to create? For example, a social media post or a video or a presentation.
Yeah, I mean, every single one of those are different vehicles,
Mhm.
and one size does not fit all by any means. If you are creating something that is going to be a website on a cell phone versus a website that's going to be mainly consumed on a computer, you have to think about those very differently. Um, Also, if it's video, is it short form? Is it long form?
Yes.
Is it branding? So yeah, it really comes down to thinking about how people are consuming the content and the challenges that might be associated with that process. So are you dealing with a small area where you have to get across your message quickly? And then it's a matter of boiling down your message to the most important thing. If the person walks away with nothing, they at least have to walk away with the following information. If
Exactly.
you have a poster, then you can start, adding more things. If you have a brochure, then that's getting more intense, but it also introduces new challenges. So now your challenge is not how do I make sure that they get the main point, but now I'm giving them a bunch of information. How do I need to organize it so that they consume it in a way that is clear to them? So there's a proper hierarchy. It's basically like creating a map. How do you, when you think about creating a design, you have to think about where do you want a person's eyes to move and in what succession, and what are the things to highlight without highlighting everything, because then it just becomes a jumble.
It's one of those things you have to think about because it's the the creative process. It depends on how you're creating it. You have one platform that wants you a 1:1 ratio, and then in the other, the post ratio is a 4:5 or a 9:16. It really depends on how you're dispersing your content. So the creative process, I also feel it really needs to change depending on how you're presenting that content. And if you want that content to be easily digested, it's like creating omni-channel of content. Like, yes, you can use the same aspect ratio across all of the platforms, but it'll be more beneficial if you customize it or tailor it specifically for each channel.
Mhm.
All right, now, so for our last question, what is the most beneficial element with using visual communications or visual aids?
I think delight, it can't be underestimated. And
Yes.
we all love to see beautiful things or cool things or whatever sort of captures our fancy. And we really react to visuals that resonate with us, even if it's a
Yes.
brand for a product that we might not use. So delight is very important. Communication is paramount. Um, how are you getting across your message? And visuals are also much more eye-catching. So you're going to be able to get people's attention in a way that you wouldn't have otherwise. And if you think about the kinds of things that have really done well over the years, that have become those big campaigns that everybody knows,
Mhm.
they're often the simplest.
Yes.
They're the ones that just hit you like that. I mean, it can be as simple as the Got Milk campaign.
That's actually the exact campaign that I was thinking about. The Got Milk. That's awesome.
I mean, and that's it. That's brilliant. Or Just Do It. Or
Yep.
logos that everybody knows are very often simple, like the Target
Yes.
logo or Citibank. It's very I think people want to get really into designing things and making them beautiful works of art. And then they don't realize that this is something that people need to digest like that, and that lots of little details are not necessarily going to work out visually as well as when you try to replicate them on whatever surface you're printing them on.
I just want to give you some time, Christine, so you can talk to the audience, maybe give them a closing remark or tell them how to connect with you on social media. Maybe even shares where they can find some of your artwork.
No, I think that for people who are interested in visual communication, take the time to really learn your craft and don't just copy things. You know, really go and do the learnings. There are wonderful courses on LinkedIn Learning, of course, and but there's other platforms as well that you can go to. AIGA is an incredible organization that has wonderful conferences and events, and also is an incredible way to get to know other people in the industry. And you'll find that the designers at the height of their career are often very involved in AIGA and also very good friends with one another. So I can't recommend that enough to all people who are looking into building a career in that space. And if you
That's
want to see
definitely
my
something.
artwork, you can go to KRISTINELLISON.com.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Once again, my name is Joshua A. Hayes, and this is Christine Ellison. Make sure to like and comment what do you guys think about the topic, because I think I like these interviews. I might do some more. Who should I interview next?